All right, we are continuing our NFL Combine coverage. Jeremy Fowler from ESPN is here, and I've seen you walk around, do multiple laps inside of the Indiana Convention Center here. And my biggest question for you was, where are your eyes? What are some of your objectives being at the Combine this year?
I don't know. I'm kind of sporadic. I'm all over the place. I pace a lot, and I jump out of conversations. Really just trying to catch up with GMs and head coaches that are here today. Most of them are here. This is the big day. So, I saw Kwesi for a minute, Kevin, and then just various other teams. Just even if it's just a quick hello and, we'll see what's going on, with how they're approaching free agency. But, it's usually just sort of cursory talks at this point.
I mean, you talked about just the cursory points and just some of those objectives for the Vikings. It starts at quarterback. When you look at the Kirk Cousins situation, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, it's the most fascinating one in probably the entire league.
Right.
I know the Bears have the number one pick and can do a lot of quarterback, but the Vikings, they're at a sort of a inflection point because they have to decide once again, are we willing to commit strong guarantees, if not close to full guarantees on a contract for Kirk Cousins, because that's what he's been used to. He's sort of been the Tom Brady of negotiators, So they have to sort of make a decision. I think if they do that, then it's pretty clear cut to be able to do a deal and keep him around. But if they're not amenable to that, then there are a lot of ripple effects throughout the league. If a player like Cousins of his caliber is on the open market, then the Vikings could be taking their swing at quarterback in the draft, which, I think they've always been curious about in this new regime, but they've had a good veteran, so they haven't had to. So I'm really fascinated by it, but just because of the impact that one decision can have on three other spots.
I mean, when you have a guy in Kwesi who comes from San Francisco, where it's, kind of build up the line, put a quarterback in, and you kind of go from there as they lead the front, versus a Kevin O'Connell where you go free agency with Matt Stafford in L.A. and let him lead you to a Super Bowl. When you look at this Vikings team, which route can you see those guys taking?
Ooh, there are a lot of different routes you could take, and they can all be successful if done correctly. And I think the way the Vikings are built, they can have success with a lot of different quarterbacks. It's a place that quarterbacks would want to go.
Yeah.
I look at somebody like Russell Wilson. I'm not saying the Vikings want to sign Russell Wilson, but I'm saying if he was available and a free agent, I think he would probably like to go to Minnesota because of the weapons you have. So it's a desirable place right now. I don't know. I do think they've been digging in on the draft the last few years. I think they're intrigued by taking a big swing if they can, if it's the right one. And we'll see how far that goes. The other available free agents aren't the caliber of Kirk Cousins. It's like, how do you justify going after somebody else when you have the best free agent quarterback in-house? So to me, it seems either Cousins or draft.
Moving to the defensive side of the ball, Brian Flores came in last year. Just the expectations for what we expected of him, he far exceeded that. When you look at it from a big picture standpoint, how would you assess Brian Flores year one versus going into year two?
Well, he's a good defensive coach. He's proven that, and it showed. And so, he kind of created a hybrid scheme a little bit, and working with the pieces that he had that were maybe different or had to be reworked because of injury, and you had to get creative, and he showed that. He's obviously has an affinity for the blitz and used that at times, but didn't overuse it at other times. So it seems like it was a good marriage, from afar, and they got some tough calls with guys like Daniil Hunter, who's a monster for him. And the defense, can they bring him back? Or you have maybe they go and sign more of a mid-tier option like a DJ Wallen and bring somebody like that back who's sort of a rising player.
My last question for you is just understand that we're at the Combine and there's a lot of meetings taking place, but when you are a team like the Vikings and you understand that you're going to have to dress to the Combine, you have to dress free agency and then the draft, where does the Combine factor into those decisions?
Well, it's huge because you'll be sitting down with agents of all your players. You'll be sitting down with other teams probably, maybe even comparing notes, other agents, other scouts. There's so much information that can be gleaned here. So this really is the start of free agency, honestly, to me, and the start of the draft. And really the off-season calendar, it begins now. Everything else was just sort of premature. So they can sort of start to craft their roster now based on their internal meetings and then also what they find out talking to other people. So it's an exciting time.
Exciting time for sure. I feel like I should give you this watch because I need you to calculate your steps at this point.
I left my watch in my room. I was just thinking about that.
You're at least at 10,000 right now, but looking forward to watching you on ESPN and seeing what comes out of the Combine.
Yeah,
Appreciate you, Jeremy.
Appreciate you. Thanks.
Yep.